Hey everyone, are you ready for another deep dive? You guys sent in some awesome stuff about mitochondria this week, so
Yeah,
looks like we're going on a mission to figure out how to keep those little powerhouses humming.
right. It's going to be fascinating.
And get this,
Yeah.
there might even be a link between how much you played outside as a kid and your mitochondria today.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Mm.
Plus, we're going to challenging some assumptions about things like saturated fat. Like, did you know some types might actually be good for you?
Okay, so we're going to be busting some myths this time around.
You got it. But first, let's break down what mitochondria even are.
So, in a nutshell, mitochondria are like tiny power plants inside our cells.
Right, the ones that make all our energy.
Exactly. And when these little guys are working well, we've got more energy, we age better, and we're more protected from chronic diseases like diabetes and high blood pressure.
Makes sense. You don't want your power plants going offline.
Definitely not.
Speaking of which, our source, a YouTube video by a Healthy Immune Doc, dives right into the consequences of damaged mitochondria. And it's not pretty.
Yeah, it's serious stuff.
Things like high blood sugar, high blood pressure, even brain fog.
Oh, wow.
And you know what they blame for? A lot of it?
What's that?
Television.
Really?
They actually link the rise of TV to the increase in these conditions.
I can kind of see that.
Wait, so hold on. How can watching TV directly impact my blood sugar? That doesn't sound right.
It's more about the sedentary lifestyle that TV encourages. We end up sitting for hours, often snacking on processed foods while we watch.
Okay, so it's not the TV itself, but what we do while we watch.
That's exactly it.
Like the lack of movement and the not-so-healthy snacks.
Yep. And together, they create a perfect storm for mitochondrial damage.
Makes sense.
The doctor even talks about his brother, who walks over 23,000 steps a day.
Whoa, 23,000 steps? That's insane.
Yeah. It's probably more than most people need, but it definitely highlights the importance of movement.
True. And I'm sure most of us could benefit from just moving a little bit more each day.
Absolutely. Even small changes can make a big difference. And, they even share an example of a friend who was able to lower her blood pressure by 40 points just by walking up and down stairs for 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
See, that's what I mean.
So getting moving is definitely key for our mitochondria. But what about the food we eat?
Well, based on this source, processed foods are public enemy number one.
Processed foods, huh? What's wrong with them?
They're loaded with toxins and missing key nutrients, basically a double whammy for our mitochondria.
Interesting.
And, the doctor even shared a personal story about how they would spend hours as a kid clipping coupons.
Oh.
Not for healthy food, but for processed stuff.
Wow. It makes you think about all those childhood favorites, the sugary cereals, the snack cakes.
Right.
Maybe they're not as harmless as we thought.
Yeah, exactly. And get this, the source says that we can sometimes actually feel our mitochondria struggling. Have you ever felt that kind of tired, foggy feeling after eating certain foods?
Oh, yeah.
Like after a super heavy meal or one with lots of processed ingredients?
Exactly. I always just figured it was normal food coma.
But it might actually be a sign of your mitochondria working overtime to process what you just ate.
So it's not just what we eat, it's how our bodies handle it.
Right.
That's wild. Now, I'm curious about this bold claim they make about saturated fat.
Yeah.
They argue that it can directly damage mitochondria, especially certain kinds found in meat and dairy.
That's right.
But I thought some saturated fats were good for you.
It's all about the nuances. They're specifically talking about palmitate, a type of saturated fat found in meat and dairy.
Okay.
When we eat too much palmitate, our bodies convert it into ceramide, and that can be toxic to our cells, especially our mitochondria.
So it's not about avoiding all saturated fat, but being mindful of where it comes from.
Exactly. And they even mention a study where kids who were infused with lipids, basically fats, saw their blood sugar go haywire almost immediately.
Oh, wow. That's scary. But they do clarify that not all saturated fats are bad, right?
Absolutely. And we'll get into those details later. For now, it's important to remember that this is just one perspective on a complex issue.
Fair enough. Okay, so we got movement, processed foods, and saturated fat. What about fruit? I was surprised to see the doctor passionately defending fruit as a longevity food, with all the talk about sugar being bad these days.
Right. Well, here's the key. Whole fruit is not the same as processed fruit products.
Oh, okay.
Whole fruits are packed with fiber and antioxidants, which slow down sugar absorption and protect our cells.
So it's the processing that strips away the good stuff.
Yep. Processed fruit products are basically concentrated sugar, which can lead to those blood sugar spikes that damage our mitochondria.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I feel way different after eating an apple versus drinking apple juice.
Exactly. And the source even challenges you to think about whether you've ever actually overeaten whole fruit.
Hmm, I can't say that I have.
Right.
Hmm.
It's like our bodies naturally tell us when we've had enough.
Yeah. Okay, so we're starting to see a pattern here.
Mm.
Move more, eat whole foods, ditch the processed stuff.
Right.
But they also talked about the importance of antioxidants.
Oh, yes. Antioxidants. They're like little superheroes for our cells.
Yeah, how so?
They neutralize harmful free radicals, which can damage our cells' machinery, including our mitochondria.
So it's a constant battle between free radicals and antioxidants.
It is. And those free radicals come from all sorts of things. Pollution, stress, even just the normal processes of aging.
Wow. So we need a steady supply of antioxidants to fight back. Are there specific ones we should focus on?
Well, they don't go into specifics, but they emphasize eating a rainbow of colorful fruits and vegetables. Each color represents different groups of antioxidants.
Ah, so it's like eating the rainbow for optimal protection.
Exactly. And they talk about red quinoa. That deep red color comes from a high concentration of antioxidants that protect the plant. And when we eat it, those same antioxidants go to work protecting our cells.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so if we move more, eat whole foods, and load up on those colorful antioxidants, we're setting our mitochondria up for success, right?
That seems to be the message. And the best part is, it's never too late to start making changes.
That's good to hear.
Even small adjustments can make a big difference for your mitochondrial health.
That's encouraging. So we've covered the basics of mitochondria, the impact of modern life, and the importance of movement in whole foods.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
But there's still so much more to discuss.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right, we haven't even touched on environmental toxins or this whole food matrix thing.
And we definitely need to unpack those controversial claims about avoiding carbs.
Yes. That's next time on our deep dive. Don't miss it. Welcome back to our deep dive.
Before we jump into anything new, I'm still stuck on that whole thing about feeling your mitochondria being stressed.
Oh, yeah.
It's made me pay more attention to how different foods make me feel. Like I'm really noticing it now.
That's great. It really shows how connected we are to what we eat, on a cellular level.
For sure. And speaking of food, I'm curious about this food matrix idea they talked about.
Yeah.
I've got to be honest, I don't think I've ever heard that term before.
Well, it basically comes down to choosing whole foods whenever you can.
Okay, so how does that tie into this whole matrix thing?
It's all about how nutrients are arranged within the food itself. Like, think of the structure of the food.
So it's not just about the nutrients themselves, it's how they're packaged.
Exactly. It's kind of like they use the example of nuts.
Okay.
You absorb way fewer calories from a whole nut versus nut butter,
Wow.
even if they technically have the same calorie count.
Yeah, because the fiber in the whole nut makes it harder for your body to get to all those calories.
So our bodies have to work harder, which is a good thing.
It is in this case. It stops our systems from getting overloaded with calories all at once, which can lead to fat storage and stress our metabolism.
That food matrix idea is making me rethink my meals. Maybe I need to swap those smoothies for more whole fruits and veggies.
That's a great takeaway. And another thing that stresses our mitochondria, they talked about environmental toxins, right?
Oh yeah, those.
It's not just what we choose to eat, it's the stuff we can't always avoid. Like pesticides, herbicides, heavy metals, the list goes on.
Right. It can feel kind of overwhelming.
It is a lot. The source really focuses on glyphosate, the stuff in Roundup.
Roundup.
Yeah, they say that's a big problem.
Okay.
But there's also mercury in fish, lead in water, even cadmium in chocolate.
Hold on. Cadmium in chocolate. I thought dark chocolate was supposed to be good for you.
It is, but the darker it is, the more cadmium it might have. Choosing organic chocolate can help lower the risk, though.
So it's all about being aware of these things and making smarter choices when we can.
That's the idea. Organic produce, filtering your water, thinking about the fish you eat, it all adds up.
Right, because we can't escape all the toxins out there.
Unfortunately not. And that's where those antioxidants come in, right? They're our internal defense system.
Yeah, like our own personal toxin fighters. But with so many different antioxidants, how do we know which ones are the most important?
That's a good question. The source doesn't really get into specific types, but they stress the importance of eating lots of different colors of fruits and veggies.
Okay.
Because each color means a different group of antioxidants, each with their own benefits.
So it's like eating the rainbow for maximum protection.
Exactly. And, they give this great example of Red quinoa. Yeah, they talk about how that bright red color means it's packed with antioxidants to protect the plant from damage. And when we eat it, those same antioxidants go to work protecting our cells.
Wow, that's a cool way to think about it. So combining all of this, the diet, the movement, the antioxidants, we're basically giving our mitochondria the best possible chance to thrive.
Like, that's the takeaway, yeah. And what's great is that it's never too late to start making those changes.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Even little tweaks can make a big difference for your mitochondria.
That's encouraging. But what about all the damage we might have already done? Can we reverse that?
Well, it is true that as we age, our mitochondria naturally slow down.
Yeah.
They said that by 50, our mitochondrial function has already decreased by 20%, and by 71, it's down 30%.
Wow, that's a lot. So does that mean we're just stuck with weaker mitochondria as we get older?
Age is definitely a factor, but it's not the only one. Our lifestyle choices make a huge difference in how well our mitochondria work as we age.
So even if I haven't been making the best choices, I can still turn things around.
Exactly. It's never too late to start incorporating those good habits. They even talk about people with serious mitochondrial damage who saw big improvements by changing their lifestyle.
Oh, wow.
Of course, starting early is always best, but it's never too late to benefit from a healthier lifestyle.
That's inspiring. It's like
Yeah.
we have the power to change our health destiny.
That's a great way to put it. It's about feeling empowered, not overwhelmed.
Right. And it's not always the big things either. They mention how something like losing muscle mass can impact our mitochondria.
Yeah, that's why they're not fans of those extreme diets and weight loss drugs. They might help you lose weight quickly, but it often comes at the cost of muscle mass and hydration. And both of those are super important for healthy mitochondria.
So those fad diets that promise fast results might actually be doing more harm than good.
That's what the source seems to be saying. It's all about finding what's sustainable for the long haul, not just chasing quick fixes.
It's like trying to build a house on a shaky foundation. It might look good at first, but it won't last.
Exactly. It's much better to build a solid foundation of healthy habits that support our bodies at the cellular level.
Makes sense. So building muscle is actually key for our mitochondria.
Mm-hmm.
But isn't cardio the best way to boost metabolism?
Cardio is definitely important, but the source really emphasizes strength training.
Oh, interesting. Why is that?
Any exercise helps make new mitochondria, but strength training helps build muscle, which is essential for energy production.
So we're not just keeping the mitochondria we have, we're making more.
That's right.
That's incredible. I'm ready to hit the gym. This deep dive is making me want to take action.
That's the best part. It's not just about learning, it's about doing something with that knowledge.
Absolutely. So in this part, we've tackled those food matrices, environmental toxins, and the importance of muscle. We even talked about how gender and body composition play a role.
We've covered a lot.
But there's one thing I'm still wondering about.
What's...
They said avoiding all carbs could actually be bad for our mitochondria.
Ah, yes. That's a big one.
I was surprised by that, especially with all the low-carb diets out there these days.
Yeah, it definitely goes against the grain. And that's exactly what we'll be exploring in the final part of our deep dive.
Welcome back. I'm ready to unpack that statement about avoiding all carbs. It seems counterintuitive, especially with all the low-carb hype these days.
It does challenge conventional thinking, doesn't it? But the source isn't pushing a high-carb diet either. It's more about finding a balance and understanding which types of carbs are best for our mitochondria.
Right, because they did say carbs are a primary source of quick energy. And that seems especially important for anyone who's active, right?
Absolutely. The more active you are, the more carbs your body can handle. If we don't eat enough carbs, especially when we're moving a lot, we risk depleting our energy stores and putting more stress on our mitochondria.
So it's not just the amount of carbs, it's also the timing and our activity level.
Exactly. And remember that food matrix concept we talked about?
Yeah.
It comes into play here too. Whole, unprocessed carbs, like those in fruits, veggies, and whole grains, digest much slower than refined carbs.
Right, which helps prevent those blood sugar spikes.
And those spikes can mess with our metabolism and contribute to mitochondrial damage.
So it's not about fearing all carbs, it's about choosing the right ones and eating them in a way that works for our bodies.
It really seems like listening to our bodies is key, finding what works best for each of us.
Definitely. And speaking of individual needs, they also talked about how gender and body composition can affect how we burn calories and use energy.
Right, it's something we don't always think about. Women generally burn fewer calories than men for the same amount of activity, probably because of differences in muscle mass and hormones.
That makes sense. And they mentioned body fat percentage too. The more muscle we have, the more calories we burn at rest, so our mitochondria are working more efficiently.
It really shows how interconnected everything is. It's not just about diet or exercise on their own, it's about all these factors working together.
So what's the bottom line? What are the key takeaways from all this talk about mitochondria?
Well, I think the biggest message is that we have a lot of control over our mitochondrial health. It starts with the food we eat, prioritizing movement, and minimizing those toxins we talked about.
And being patient, right?
That-
These changes don't happen overnight, but with consistent effort, we can really impact how our mitochondria function and ultimately how we feel in age.
Absolutely. And every little step counts. Even a few extra minutes of walking each day or swapping a processed snack for a piece of fruit can add up over time.
I know I'm going to be more aware of those small choices from now on.
That's great to hear. And remember that message from the source, don't get caught up in quick fixes and fad diets. Focus on building sustainable long-term health.
It's a good reminder that true health is a journey, not a destination.
Well said. And on that note, we'd like to leave you with one final thought. If you could make just one change today to support your mitochondria, what would it be?
Would you take a brisk walk in nature, add more colorful fruits and veggies to your plate, or maybe just take a moment to appreciate the amazing complexity of your own body? The power to make a difference is in your hands. Until next time, keep those mitochondria humming.